There's an old saying, and I've used it several times on this channel by a man called George Santayana. And it says, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I wonder if Tyson Fury is going to learn from history. There's a part of me reading this that thinks maybe, but then he says other things in this recent interview he gave with Play Undisputed that makes me think, hell to the no. So basically, I'm going to talk about a quote he has here where he's talking about his team. But during this interview he gave, he talked about obviously the rematch with Alexander Usyk. He's been very vocal this week about Alexander Usyk and the rematch. It seems as though, he mentioned the rematch a little bit in the last couple of months, but it's really only since the Joshua Dubois fight he seems to have just gone full blown, right? Usyk next, Usyk's a bum, he's this, he's a rabbit, all this stuff, all the stuff Tyson Fury comes out with. In this interview, he was saying things like, I need to go in there, I need to train for a knockout. Well, why do you need to train for a knockout? Because they won't give me the decision. So obviously Tyson Fury, after the Alexander Usyk fight in the ring, said, well, they gave him the decision because of sympathy. He didn't quite use those words, but you know what I mean. Basically alluding to the fact that Alexander Usyk, the conflict that's going on in his country of Ukraine, basically that it was a sympathy vote for Alexander Usyk. Now, I said at the time that was a real scummy thing to say. I stand by that it was a real scummy thing to say. And to be implying that's the reason why Alexander Usyk won the fight, and to imply that's going to be the reason again in the rematch. Again, Tyson Fury showing the kind of guy he is. It's as simple as that. Okay? He's saying that they won't give him a decision. Well, you didn't win the first fight. You were nearly knocked out in the first fight. You were outlanded in the first fight. You could seriously, you look at the first 4 rounds, at best, Tyson Fury, at best, being generous, won maybe one of those rounds. One. At best. But yet somehow he's trying to say that, it was a clear win for him. That, he won this fight and it was only out of sympathy. So now I need to go and train to knock Alexander Usyk out. So basically implying that all he needs to do is be more aggressive, try and go for a knockout instead of not looking at the obvious defensive flaws he made. I mean, he was hit more in that fight than Joshua was in both his fights. Not combined, but just both his fights. If you take them, isolated incidents in those fights, he was hit more, right? Yes, he was showboating a lot, trying to give the perception that he was in control, but what was he doing? He wasn't doing much. Alexander Usyk landed hard left hands, Fury landing pitter-patter jabs with an open fist. You can't even count them as scoring shots. But what I really want to talk about here is, it says here, Tyson Fury has indicated that he will be making no changes to his corner team for the Alexander Usyk rematch, which consists of Sugar Hill steward Andy Lee and his father John Fury. He says, and I quote, people could say, I want to change trainers, or I blame it on my conditioning coach or my cook. I'm not interested in all that. Same team, same everything. I know what I've got to do. Now, when he says I know what I've got to do, it is interesting when he says that, because Fury, as you know, is someone who normally always does better in rematches. He said going into the Wilder rematch, I know what I need to do. And that rematch, I remember a lot of people, in fact, I think I was one of very few who actually picked Fury going into that rematch. I didn't think he'd do the job he did. That surprised me. I really didn't think it'd be as one-sided as it was. But a lot of people were thinking between the cut, between everything. And I remember at the time, a lot of people were saying that Fury could do great against most heavyweights, but Wilder is the one they're not too sure of. And that was the perception a lot of people had. And Fury was just like, I learned from the first fight. I know what I need to do. And he went in there and he did it. That was a much younger Tyson Fury. And at the end of the day, Wilder has shown, and that win is aged like milk, it really has, he's not Alexander Usyk. This won't be a one-sided demolition job for Tyson Fury if he goes in there and does win the fight. If he does win the fight, which it's not inconceivable that he can, it's going to be a really, really difficult fight. Like, it's really going to be difficult. It's not going to be an easy win for Tyson Fury, even if he goes in there and wins it. He will know, win or lose, he will have been in a fight with Alexander Usyk, 100%. And the difference with this fight, again, Tyson Fury is a much older Tyson Fury. He's not lived the cleanest life. But in the first Wilder fight, apart from really only the second knockdown, which was heavy, the first knockdown wasn't that heavy. Fury was okay. He didn't take any real punishment in that fight. He was probably out of the 3 fights, that was probably the least memorable, because not much happened. Yeah, it had high drama at points, But it was really just the kind of, Wilder looking to land a big right, Fury keeping it at range. There wasn't really much to it. Neither guy took a beating. Both guys could have went probably a week later and fought again. It wasn't a damaging fight. The first Usyk fight was a damaging fight for Tyson Fury. He took a lot of shots. He was hurt worse than we've ever seen him. We've seen Fury down. We've seen him dropped. But we've never seen him like that on jellied legs. The corner thing is the interesting one. And I will just say on that, that's why I think in this fight, if he wins it, it's not going to be like the Wilder fight where he goes in and just does a demolition job and that's it, happy days. I don't think it'll be like that. But what he's saying here about the corner not changing, at the end of the day, Tyson Fury, when he left Ben Davison to go and train with Sugar Hill Stewart, at the time, I really did think that was a very strange move. Because, not necessarily strange in a sense of you're leaving Ben Davison to train with Sugar Hill. No, in many cases you could say it was a good move. But the timing of it was late December 2019. In fact, Joshua had beaten Ruiz. It was even after, Joshua fought Ruiz. So it was late in December. I think it was near Christmas week. They made that announcement he was going to Sugar Hill. You're talking 2 months. 2 months to go and train with a new trainer and go into the biggest fight of your career. I thought that was crazy. I was wrong. Very wrong. It was a great move. Since then, it's changed a little bit. Andy Lee has come in. And Andy Lee is a good trainer, to be fair. But John Fury in there as well. In round number, I think it was round 9 to 10 or round 10 to 11, you had Andy Lee saying one thing. You had Sugar Hill in front saying one thing. You had John Fury saying the other. You had one guy saying it's okay. You had the other guy with a bit of urgency. And you had Tyson Fury. I felt for him, to be fair. I'm just sitting there like, he's saying this, he's saying this, he's saying this. Too many cooks spoil the broth. Do you ever hear that saying? And I think that if you are going to insist on having Andy Lee and John Fury in your corner, which Tyson Fury, by all accounts here, is going to have, there needs to be one voice. You need to have, and I know some people could say, well, look at Dubois and Don Charles. Don Charles gives the instructions, but it's really Stan Dubois who Daniel is listening to. I get that, but when you look at the corner, you don't see the commotion that you do in Team Fury. I mean, when you look at the corner work, you're just thinking, and Sugar Hill is a man I respect very much. I think he's a brilliant trainer. I really do. I think he gets a lot of flack. I think that he has a certain style. It's not going to necessarily work on some fighters geographically. For some fighters like, Lawrence Okoli and Ben Whittaker, if they're looking to base himself in the UK and he's based in Detroit, it's not ideal. You nearly have to commit to staying in the US full time. It might not work for them. They might be only training with him for a couple of weeks on end and then, back and forth, stuff like that. Might not be the best in terms of, how it's set up. But Sugar Hill I do rate as a trainer. I think he's very, very good. And I think he probably is the right man for the job with Tyson Fury. But he needs to be the main guy. If Fury is going to insist on this, and listen, he may prove me wrong. It may work out very well. I just thought that corner was... Now, it was chaotic fight week with John Fury doing what he was doing. But in the ring on Fight Night, that corner just looked chaotic. And if you've got a fighter who's in a fight that... he knows, in spite of what he might say, he knows he was in a real hard, tough fight there. You need a corner who is going to keep you calm, keep you reassured, but give you good advice. You don't need one guy there, one guy there, one guy there, and they're all just trying to say this, and you're just kind of like, what the hell, voice this ear, voice that ear, guy in front, you're just like, what the hell, what's going on here? If they can fix that, this might work, but... what happens when the fight gets tough? Because win or lose this fight, it's going to be a tough fight for Tyson Fury. And he may go through a crisis. If he's going through a crisis again, well, what happens? Are we going to go back to square one where we have Sugar Hill, Andy Lee, John Fury all coming and you're just like, what the hell? So Fury, it makes sense not to change, to be honest with you, going into a fight like this, so close as well. But I don't know. I think that if Fury is insisting on keeping this corner as it is, he needs to lay the groundwork. There's going to be one voice in the corner, and that should be Sugar Hill. John Fury, Andy Lee, they can, speak to one another. They can, confer amongst themselves. But there needs to be one voice in that corner, and that should be Sugar Hill Stewart, in my opinion. But Tyson Fury, hell-bent on keeping the same team. He says he knows what to do in the rematch. We shall see. It's going to be interesting when they announce the press conference. And it's also going to be interesting to see the face-to-face when they do that, whether it's with the Zone, TNT, whoever. That's going to be really interesting because Tyson Fury, as I said, he tries to play the mind games with Usyk and he just can't. Usyk is just something different. But how is he going to be? Because when he first went to that press conference with Alexander Usyk way back November last year, straight off the bat, it was, I've never seen Fury so angry. And all this, a cruiserweight can't come up to heavyweight and beat a heavyweight. Look what Evander Holyfield did when he fought Riddick Bowe. That's proof. Well, look what Evander Holyfield, he beat Riddick Bowe. Yeah, he lost the trilogy, but he still beat him. All these reasons as to why Usyk can't beat me and why a cruiserweight can't beat a heavyweight. Yeah, well, they have in the past and they will in the future. It's almost like Fury trying to convince himself at the time anyway. Now what's going to happen? Is he going to try and convince himself again? I don't know how it's going to work. That's why it's interesting, I'm going on, I'm waffling on here a little bit, but it's an interesting rematch for that reason. If Fury can turn up and learn from his mistakes, he's got a chance in here, definitely. But if he doesn't, and he tries to just go and do the same thing he did first time around, sorry about that, then yeah, we could be in for a short night come December. I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course. As always, if you haven't already. And for now, I'll leave it there. Peace.